Good evening. I'd like to now call this meeting to order. Village of Deerfield Board of Trustees meeting of February 3rd, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mayor Shapiro.
Here.
Trustee Benton.
Here.
Trustee Berg.
Here.
Trustee Goldstone.
Here.
Trustee Jacoby.
Here.
Trustee Metz-Childers is absent. Trustee Oppenheim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And Trustee Berger is joining us remotely. If we could all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for
I'm now going to ask for a motion. This is all messed up. Yeah, but it just came over. I'm now going to ask for appointments and move that certain individuals be considered for positions that I will now recite. Elise Renwick for Building and Zoning Appeals. Shantali Alam for Community Relations. Neil Goldberg, Appearance Review Commission. Matthew White, Sustainability Commission. Is there a motion to approve these appointments?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes of our previous meeting of January 21, 2024. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
This is the December 2024 Treasurer's Report. It represents the unaudited results of 2024. The numbers you see tonight are also subject to year-end adjustments. Those adjustments are mostly for expenses paid in 2025 that relate back to 2024. We'll also make some adjustments to make sure that the revenues are matched against the periods when they were actually earned. And finally, some allocation adjustments between the expenditure between the departments, just to make sure everything shows up in the right place. So, good snapshot of what we have for now, which was a good year, but more to come before we get to the final audit, which would be presented in June. The annual net sales tax increased from 2 years ago. It did actually decrease from last year, but that's because that 1 month last year had $600,000, so about $300,000 more than every other month you see on there. Good problem to have. That was non-recurring revenue, though, so we probably can't count on that. The gross sales tax also decreased from last year. That's due to less economic incentive activity, so that means there's also less expenditures there. Almost all of the other major revenue sources exceeded the budgeted amounts, which is good. And most notably, interest income, hotel tax, and building permits really came on right at the end of the year, and we're hoping to see that continue into next year. Notable expenditures in December include construction and engineering costs, the police pension contribution, which we make once a year, budgeted transfers to the 2011B sinking fund and the refuse fund, an allocation of lease season costs to the refuse fund, installation of squad equipments, and we purchased a Public Works 1-ton truck during the month. So all pretty standard expected items there.
Big expenditures, but not surprising.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, all planned for, all budgeted for.
Yep.
So.
And Your Honor, just want to thank Eric again. This is consistent with what we do, what he does every month, but don't want to let it go unnoticed that what he does for us is super huge and really important.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
And you do a good job of it.
Thank you.
One question, maybe either you or Bob, you can answer. A lot of noise or whatever about federal funding of projects.
The freeze on projects and stuff.
Yeah. And one day it's on, one day it's off, one day it's happening with it. And I know we have a big federal project in Hazel Avenue coming up, our federally funded project. Has that been affected at all?
Not so far. I mean, we haven't submitted anything to my knowledge. We haven't gotten any money back. I think that it's we're it's monitored through us and other towns and the Northwest Municipal Conference as much as we can. So I don't know if you have any more.
And we don't think so. I think that the answer is we think we're still funded, but
Right. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to add, but I would say that we did ask the Department of Transportation point blank in our meeting last week because we did meet with them as a kickoff meeting for the Hazel Avenue project. They indicated that transportation projects were not part of the freeze. So transportation projects like ours should move forward. Just as a side note, that project, Hazel Avenue project, has a lot of non-participating work in the project, and water main is one of them. That's the item that we're starting work with. So even if there were a hiccup with federal funding, the project would still move forward as planned. We would just start with non-participating work, which we're planning to do anyway. So water main work starts the project, kicks the projects off.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Eric, anything else?
Nothing else for me, but happy to answer any other questions there maybe.
We love the non-eventful reports. We like when there's, like everything is good, it's staying the same, and no surprises. That's the best report we can get.
There's a lot of professions you don't want to see excited. Dentists, accountants. Yeah, agreed. The non-exciting months are great.
Thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Bills and payrolls. There a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Larry, I'm sorry we let Eric go quickly. Did you have any questions for him?
No, thank you.
Okay. Now is the time in our meeting where we offer the public an opportunity to make a comment on a non-agenda item. On a non-agenda item, is there anyone here that would like to make a comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, let's move into our reports. We're going to go into old business. The first four matters under old business, 24-106, 1A through 1D are all related, but we'll take them one at a time. They all pertain to 5 and 8 Parkway North, also known as Ven Point. So the first matter is 24-106, 1A, approval of an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the village of Deerfield. Ben?
Yeah, so I guess let me, if I might,
Sure.
I want to talk really about the development agreement because
Sure.
the rest of the documents are pretty standard. And usually when we do a project like this where, there's several different approvals that have to happen. The first, obviously, is, that we want, before we rezone the property, we want to amend the comprehensive plan so the comprehensive plan is consistent with the approvals that we would intend to give. So that's the comprehensive plan amendment. Then we have to rezone the property because right now it's not, in the correct zoning district. Again, we've done this before. So like the Pulte project, when it was, for that project as well with Walgreens, we took that piece and put it into the residential housing district. We then have our normal PUD ordinance that grants the approvals, all the various zoning approvals, subdivision approvals. And that's always contingent upon, for the size of a project, a development agreement. And what's a little different here is, over the last really month and a half, we have worked hard with the applicant is working out and negotiating the development agreement. The development agreement, large parts of it are very similar, but the big difference is that the lenders on the project had several asks in order to lend for the project. The biggest one is that in our typical deals with our development agreements, the lender is always subordinate. So if the lender has to foreclose, the lender comes into the project and has all the obligations as the developer would. Now, the likelihood of being able to make a lender build buildings that haven't been started would be very, very slim. But our biggest concern, of course, is really kind of two things when we design a development agreement. One is we want to make sure the improvements are done. So whether it's utility improvements, roadway improvements, and so forth. And two is making sure that if something were to go awry, that we don't have incomplete structures.
Right.
We don't want shells of buildings that are an attractive nuisance sitting for years with no way to get that resolved. So again, usually it would be the lender would step into the shoes, the lender would be obligated to do that. In this case, what's a little different is the lender says, no, I do not want to step into the shoes and have to complete buildings. So what we were able to negotiate is they want an 18-month tolling period in which they have time not to do, that they don't have to come in and remediate those buildings. However, the applicant has agreed to provide a completion guarantee where where the applicant is guaranteeing personally, actually they're really the principal of the applicant, to, if there's any buildings that are incomplete, to finish them. Further, the builder, the contractor who's going to be building, has also offered up to the lender a completion guarantee. So that way there's somebody to look to be able to complete an unfinished building. And at the end of that 18-month period, tolling period lapses, the lender is going to be on the hook for all the other obligations. So it's structured slightly differently. I wanted to point that out because I know the document is dense. And so, but again, we appreciate the developer working with our office really hard over the last 45 days or so to try to get this to a place. And so we are presenting those approval documents to you tonight for your consideration. So I mentioned, again, in terms of the order, you have the PUD ordinance, which is contingent upon the development agreement, and then you will have a resolution that approves the development agreement itself, and that's the last item. So if there's anybody who has questions, I'm happy to answer them. And also,
I don't have a question because Ben's kept me very informed along the way. And Ben's been very modest about his involvement here. But for his perseverance in getting this done, we wouldn't have a development agreement. So you worked your butt off getting us to this point, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work that you've had with the developer's lawyer, staff, et cetera, but you really quarterbacked this agreement to where we are at a point where we feel good about it, and thank you for everything. So there's still an opportunity for any of us to ask questions about the agreement or about the project. Developer's here. Do we want to talk to him? Come on up, you're here. We're not going to let you go without, at least coming up to the podium.
I truly mean it, and I would echo Mayor Shapiro's comments about Mr. Schuster. When you say we've been working hard for 45 days, probably more like 70, and weekends, nights, he and I have spent a lot of time on the phone together, and Mayor Shapiro's right that we couldn't have gotten it done without Ben's hard work, because time kills all. And when I say weekends and nights, I mean it. I mean, we were Saturday nights, Sunday afternoons. It was a lot of work. So I'm very thankful to Ben. The staff has been incredible through the entire process as well. Just very, very responsive. We try to be responsive too, but that's not always reciprocated in some of these projects. But you have a wonderful staff that helped usher this through too.
We'd like to think so.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. We agree with you. So what's your next step? We have get these approved tonight, and then what are you going to do?
We're trying to move forward as quickly as we can. So we'll be kind of taking the first steps and the second steps to get permits. To get going, we have to demo a building. We have to get going with grading and other horizontal, but we want to get going as soon as possible. We'd like to start delivering units, delivering buildings really in late summer. So that would be the idea.
Late summer of this year?
2025?
Yeah.
That's pretty ambitious.
Wow.
Yeah, we're pushing really hard. So, it's a phased project naturally, not like stop and start phase, but just the fact that the buildings, some buildings have 3 units, some have 7. So we want to get going with the horizontal, get it graded, get our improvements in, like Ben mentioned, and then we're going to get going vertical as soon as we can. We'd love to be leasing units for families before the school year starts, for empty nesters before they go to Florida or Arizona or whatever. So we're pushing. Spread the word.
Okay.
Sounds great. And thank you, too. I know you worked hard on this, too.
Yeah. Well,
And you're obviously personally involved, so you got a lot at stake. So thank you
yep.
for your involvement. Questions, anything?
But I hope you realize that our staff will still be cooperative throughout the entire process of you building, and keep coming to us.
Yeah.
We have a stake in you being successful, but we also want to ensure that there's safety and value for the community. So we're delighted to be as cooperative as we can possibly be, and we would love for you to be that way too.
Great. You can count on it.
And also compliant with code. I mean,
Yep.
that's
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's just kind of understood.
It's good for
Right.
everybody, right?
Given.
That's awesome.
All right. Let's get to looking at motions.
How do you want to do this?
Let's go in order, right?
One by one. Yep.
Okay.
24-106-1A, a motion for the approval of an ordinance amending the future land use map of comprehensive plan of the Village of Deerfield.
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
24-106-1B, and a motion for the approval of an ordinance rezoning of certain properties located at 5 and 8 Parkway North Boulevard from I-1 to R5 General Residential District.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion or comments? Roll call.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
24-106-1C, motion for the approval of an ordinance amending a special use and final development plan for Parkway North Center Plan PUD, for the Parkway North Center PUD, and approving a special use and final development plan for a residential PUD with certain exceptions and modifications, and a final plat of subdivision located at 5 and 8 Parkway North Boulevard.
Move approval.
Second?
Comments? Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 24-106-1D, a motion approving a resolution, a motion to approve a resolution approving a development agreement for Parkway TIC1 LLC and Parkway TIC2 LLC.
Move approval?
Second.
Comments? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
One more step down.
Your Honor, Chris, thank you. Tim, thank you. This has been a 15-year road, at least, to get here. And I want to thank you and your team for always trying to do what's in the best interest of mutual best interest. And want to thank our newcomer to the team. But man, we've been working on this forever, so thank you.
Let us know when the groundbreaking is. We'll be there. Best of luck. And please avail yourselves of staff. Call when needed. And good luck moving forward. All right. 25-106-1, an ordinance authorizing a special use for a self-improvement facility for Ultimate Ninjas Academy at 775 Waukegan Road in Deerfield Village Center. Ben.
All right. So before you on the dais is a draft ordinance. And I think most of the ordinance is pretty much the standard and what you would expect in terms of granting the special use permit. The one thing that called your attention is really in the conditions, because this I know was what you all asked for last time. And so we worked on them. So if you go to, page 2 in particular, and I'm going to call out really the 3 that have been asked for. So one is employee parking. So that's section 3B, which during the business hours, the applicant's employees must park in the parking lot located at the east side of the shopping center located on the property between the terraces at Deerfield and the West Deerfield Township office located at 601 Deerfield Road in the village. In the event that the applicant's employees lose access to the east parking lot or the east parking lot does not have sufficient parking for the applicant's employees, the applicant shall submit a plan to the village community development director for approval designating alternative parking spaces or lots for the applicant's employees to park and to maximize the amount of parking available to customers of the shopping center.
Yep.
Okay. Also with recognition that they do not own the lot, so it may not be within their control. So the idea is that they will work with the community development director, we would work with them, and come up with an alternative plan if it's an issue, which you don't anticipate it to be. But C is the information guide that was requested. The applicant must prepare an information guide approved by the community development director to distribute to patrons prior to the facility's opening date. The information guide must include parking and pickup procedures for patrons, identify where patrons and their parents may park, and emphasizing that patrons and their parents may not park or stand in the parking drive aisle at any time.
And can I just interrupt you for a second and ask a question about the information guide, which is, it's terrific, and those are the kinds of things that we wanted people to be educated about. But in the event that what is laid out in the information guide turns out to be problematic, that the initial plan doesn't work, this does not preclude the facility from changing their practice, does it? The fact that...
No, and so it's really just we want to see before they open.
Okay.
And I think that's partly village experience. We've watched this lot for years.
Right.
But,
But because we're specifying that the
nothing
guide is to
prohibits
go
them.
to them, it doesn't prohibit them
Correct.
from amending it in the future.
Correct.
Good.
And they can, and if they need to, and that would be
Okay.
perfectly appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
D, parking and pickup review. The applicant must appear before the village board on a date designated by the village community development director that is at least 6 months after the facility opens to patrons for the applicant to provide an update on the availability of parking at the property and flow of traffic in the parking lot during business hours. The village board hereby reserves the right to implement reasonable additional parking conditions on applicant and the facility based on the 6-month review by resolution duly adopted, provided that such conditions shall not unreasonably hinder the applicant's operations. So the idea here would be we don't want to make them go back through the zoning process. If we had to amend this the ordinance, we'd end up having to go back to the plan commission, public notices, and all that long, lengthy process. So we're trying to make this easy. And those are kind of the 3 conditions. Now, the one thing I want to point out, and I will let the applicants speak for themselves, but, we've gone back and forth on a couple of drafts, and I know that, they may have some feelings on some of this language. What was expressed to me, and certainly please correct me if I'm wrong, one of the, the concerns they have, whether it's the east parking lot or this, is just having rules changed on them in the process, down the road. And so they're here this evening, and if they have issues or questions, I've urged them to bring them up to this board. And then, of course, it's up to the board to decide with the ordinance how you would like to frame the conditions if you feel that they should be modified based on what's in front of you.
So Ben, so should somebody outside of their control change an opportunity for them on the east side parking lot? It's like it's we can't do anything about that, right? Somebody changes that on them, then how do we deal with that?
Right.
That's one of the things they're thinking about, which is
right.
Right.
Which the
Valid.
idea is they would submit a plan to the community development director, and I think we're talking about just a couple of parking spots
Right.
for employees only, and then say this is where I would propose parking, and then community development director would say, okay, that's great, or if they propose the 2 spots right in front, which I don't think they would do, but they could say, well, why don't you park a little further away?
Right.
But we'd work through it as we do with applicants all the time.
So let's hear from applicants. I know you guys were here a couple weeks ago, and you made a presentation. We offered these conditions. It's now before us. Please let us know what you think, if you're comfortable with it, if you're not comfortable with it. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself again for our minutes.
I'm Jennifer Brody. This is it.
Very
Ultimate
nice.
Ninjas. And Stu Kantoff, my real estate agent.
I'm her broker
Broker,
and
yes.
development advisor.
And your name is?
Stuart Kantoff.
Yes. So you've had an opportunity to look at the ordinance. Was there anything you wanted to talk about or address relative to the wording in the ordinance?
So the only thing for us, I think, is looking
If you
at
wouldn't mind
that.
just getting in front of the mic a little
Oh, sorry.
bit.
The only thing for us, I think, it's a little challenging is the employee parking portion that says in the event that the applicant loses access, that we're responsible for coming up with a plan for the parking. We had submitted a draft from our lawyer who had looked at it, and she had submitted it. I think we had it submitted this morning around 11:30, and I was under the understanding that that was kind of an agreement that was okay, that portion wasn't in there initially, and then we got an updated one this afternoon that has that in there, and she hasn't had a chance. We got that at 4:30, and so she hasn't had a chance to look at any of this new language. So with that, I am hesitant to not have her eyes on it unless we can agree to accept what she submitted this morning, which...
Well, I'm going to correct.
Yeah.
The original, and correct me if I'm wrong, the original ordinance language was sent to us last week at some point in time. Her attorney then submitted red lines. This morning at about 11-ish or so, we got back an email that said those red lines that her attorney put together were fine and what were going to be submitted. Then at about 3:30 or 4 this afternoon, we got another email that said, well, wait a second, this is actually the language that the board wants. Her attorney is out of town on a business trip. She had about 5 minutes to review this, and in Jennifer, initially what had happened is in one of the initial meetings, the conditions were brought up. The employee parking is a separate one, but let's talk about just the, first of all, on item number, the information guide, everybody's goals align. She's going to provide something to her customers which make it easy for her customers to park. At the same time, that's going to accomplish the goal of what the village wants, to make it seamless for everybody. She doesn't want her customers coming in and saying, well, where do I park? I can't get in here, which is why it's in everyone's best interest. And she agreed to go ahead and do that. That one's fairly easy. The parking and pickup review, initially she had thought that, well, we'll come in 6 months, and if something's not working, we'll talk about it, and we'll determine how we can all make it better. When she got the language last week, it said something about conditions and thoughts that the board could change the rules on her, which is concerning when she's putting up lots and lots of money and signing guarantees to open the business. Her attorney then sent in a red line language, which again, up till 10:30 this morning, up till 4:30 this morning, we thought was fine, which Jen, I believe, is fine with. Mm-hmm. And then later today, it changed, and she hasn't had time to have her.
So why don't we do this? I will ask the board if it wants to push this off for 2 weeks, so that your lawyer has an adequate opportunity to look at the latest and greatest language, if that's okay with you. I don't know what your timing is, if it's time sensitive for you, but if you are okay with it being put off for 2 weeks for these I'll call them tweaks, which I'm confident will work out, then I'll ask the board to consider pushing this off to our next meeting.
Is that good for you?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And I'll move to
Table.
Move to continue.
Thank you. Couldn't think of the word. Move to continue this to our next meeting.
I'd second.
No, voice vote is fine.
And I think the intent here is to, let's work on something that we agree to. The intent is not to disagree. The intent is to agree.
Yes, 100%.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so we're going to come back in 2 weeks, and I'm very confident that the language will be resolved by then. But it seems to me that this is new to you, and I understand that you're nervous. We don't do bait and switch. We don't try to make it difficult for our businesses or our residents to have a business here and to be successful. That's not who we are. So we're going to work this out, and in 6 months, if something's not right, we're not going to impose a hardship on you. That wouldn't be in your interest or in ours. It would be, the intent would be to work something out, to tweak the plan or whatever it is, so that we all can be successful. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. See you in 2 weeks.
That would be great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, a resolution to approve an easement agreement with 943 Forest.
Thank you, Mayor. The village has about 20 some odd alleys throughout. Some of them are alleys that have gravel, and some are unimproved alleys, which are essentially in people's backyards. But what we're talking about here is a house that backs up to an improved alley, which is a gravel alley. So this is the alley that, if you know Hazel and Chestnut, where the Pie House is at, there's an alley that's just west of the Pie House that goes south, and it dead ends, 3/4 of the way down the block there, in between Forest and Chestnut. So, within the alley, about 3/4 of the way down there, there's a drainage issue that we've known about for quite some time. That drainage issue impacts, say, 4 or 5 homes. The water, when we have heavy storms, the water will pond 6 to 12 inches, and it floods garages and so forth. We've known about it for some time, and as things go, we're often looking for ways out, but we don't always have an easement. And an easement is often necessary to engineer an improvement. So we've been in contact with a couple different neighbors in that area. Mr. Brian Hayes at 943 Forest has been gracious enough to grant an easement to the village for the use of a storm sewer. And so the project would be to install a storm sewer inlet in the alley, and then run the storm sewer directly west and connect up to our storm sewer on Forest, utilizing the easement that is granted to us by Mr. Hayes at 943 Forest. It's fairly straightforward. There's no money exchanging or anything for the easement. He's happy to grant the easement to us, and then we have a quotation from more than one contractor to do the work. It's $12,000 to $15,000 to do the drainage work here in this area, so it's relatively low cost. But we do improvements like this throughout the village. A dozen or so ongoing at any given time, and this one just in particular has an easement that's involved in it. But tonight, so we've worked with this resident for quite some time, and he's very eager to get this work done in the spring before spring rains begin. And so we've worked with him for approximately 6 months. It just takes time to get through this process. And we're looking for the village board to approve the resolution for an easement agreement with 943 Forest Avenue.
We're going to record it against the property.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Bob, is this done with directional boring?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
so there's not a lot of damage to the property?
Typically, one pit in the alley, one pit in the near the street
they just
on Forest
bore.
Avenue. They directionally bore between one and the other. Yeah, it's a no dig option. It's
Cool.
pretty slick.
Thank you.
Just to throw my 2 cents in, this is the kind of stuff that I want to fix 2 or 3 times a year. This is the stuff that you want to fix.
Yeah.
Because it causes a problem, and if we can fix it, let's fix it and spend a few $1,000s on solving that problem. Super good idea.
And
So
with
thanks,
minimal
Bob, for bringing it
damage.
forward.
That's great.
Truth be told, Tyler Dickinson's been leading the charge on this one. So, but thanks, Ken.
I was going to sneeze, Jerry. You were looking at me for a motion. I was going to sneeze.
I second your sneeze.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for an easement agreement at 943 Forest?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you.
Thanks, Bob. Resolution waiving bids and approving agreement with Bradford for evidence locker purchase.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I'm coming before you tonight on behalf of the Police Department, seeking approval of a resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the purchase of evidence lockers from Bradford Systems. So our evidence lockers, they were replaced last in 2000 with the building remodel. They've been in constant use since then. And just to give you an idea of what these evidence lockers are, it's basically a full wall of lockers, and they're passed through. So the officers, when they collect evidence and property, they put them in these lockers. They're secured. And then the only people that can access those then are the property officers from the backside in the secure property room. So these lockers are under constant, use. They're starting to show signs of wear and tear over the 25 years. There's no warranty coverage on them anymore. And probably the most concerning is there's a specialized refrigerated locker in there, which has already been repaired multiple times. And the technicians told us that this is an obsolete, type of a unit. And, if it breaks down again, most likely it's going to be rendered useless. So our evidence and property division officers, they began researching this back in the fall. It's a very specialized item and installation, so very few vendors out there. Bradford Systems Corporation rose to the top. They're out of Elmhurst, Illinois. They have extensive knowledge and experience in the field. They came out. They actually did our initial install in 2000, so we know them. They very valued recommendations to the project as far as specialized lockers and things that we should utilize. They, in the end, provided us with a proposal of $26,707.54, and that includes the removal of the existing lockers, the purchase of the new lockers, installation, freight, all the above. This project was included in the approved 2025 village budget. So based on these findings, we would recommend the approval of the resolution waiving competitive bidding and accepting the proposed quote from Bradford Systems for the purchase and installation of the Space Saver evidence lockers at a cost not to exceed $26,707.54.
Questions by the board?
Does because we have one temperature-controlled locker?
Yeah, it's one unit that controls the temperature, but there's 4 smaller units in there.
Okay, I was going to ask if maybe we needed a second or a third.
No, it runs, and there's multiple within that one unit, yes.
Thank you.
Chris, I see that they also threw in a bid to relocate the existing evidence lockers, which obviously we don't want to do if they're non-functional. But do these have a use anywhere else?
They don't. They will take those and recycle them for us.
Okay.
They'll remove them, and that's all included in that price then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Items for discussion by the mayor and board of trustees. As many of you may know, there was an article in your packet, announcement by Fortune Brands. They're locating an Amgen building. 310,000 square feet, is that right, Andrew? So they're going to take 2 of the 3 buildings. Initially, 400 people are going to have a job through Fortune Brands, and that will go up to maybe 1,000 over the next couple of years. So it's a huge win for us. And it's just, a nice thing that we should all be proud of, to have them relocate here. I got a call from my sister in Wisconsin saying, "Oh my God, what was the locker company?" But it was like located out of Wisconsin. She's like, "You're taking Wisconsin and you're taking a bit different." Master Lock, yeah. So that just want to let you know about that, and that's all I have, Ken.
And I want to add on to that, Your Honor, Andrew, the mayor, and our staff team, along with Lake County Partners, probably put in a good 4 weeks of really serious hard work on that project to help make that happen. And those things don't just happen. And we're really grateful for their interest in staying here, but also, Your Honor, I want to say thank you to our team for being the competent team that could help make that happen. Because our guys helped make that happen. So
And that was wonderful by staff and Lake County Partners.
yeah, Lake County, and the state of Illinois, and all of those players
It all came
helped
together.
make that happen. So just wanted to say that.
And the amazing thing to me was that all of the companies under Fortune Brands, most of which we don't know are under Fortune Brands, Mullen Faucets, a number of others, amazing company.
Yep. Your Honor, I just want to just kind of fill the group in. Mary has participated in that. Chief Sliosis has participated in this. You have the 109 Advisory Council. We're meeting every month or so and just talking about things that are concerning the 109 community. Our elementary school district has to deal with the anxious generation, has to deal with their school facilities. Just know, and Dan reminded me to talk about this today, we are in conversation with them about what's going on and trying to help facilitate that community conversation on what's important for them as they see their facilities, as they see their families, as we see our families, and that's what part of the police department involvement in the stresses that our families are under today are just kind of unique. So we're just know, I think, Dan, that was your thought.
Yeah.
We are in that conversation.
Yep.
Board, anyone have any comments? Anything? All right, so we have executive session, so I will ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C11.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes.